So we have a lot to go through today, so let's get started with a question from Nelson Masariego. Nelson says, could Real Madrid announcing Rudiger even before the transfer window was open, does that mean that they're planning a huge summer? Also, who is the odd man out given that we have a surplus of great defenders now?
I don't think it has to do with how the team is focusing on the whole transfer window. I think it has more to do with, in the end he's a free agent starting next month, but the players are all focused on the Nations League now, and obviously off season has begun officially for all teams, so it makes no sense to delay it even more. So this is just my take, my prediction, but I don't think it has anything to do with Real Madrid want to announce it now because they are going to announce one signing every 2 weeks. I don't think that's how it works.
Well, it's also been kind of preconceived for a few months now, so what's the sense of waiting also? Like
Mm,
the deal was done for quite some
yeah.
time. Um,
Yeah, odd man out.
yeah.
Let's tackle that. Well, I everyone who is on Twitter and follow us and follow Managing Madrid or myself or Kian probably knows that I think that Mendy is quite probably going to be the one player who sits and stays on the bench more often than not when everyone's healthy. Obviously, this signing gives Ancelotti the luxury of making rotations, much needed rotations, by the way, way more often than what he could do in the past. Obviously, also gives him the tactical option of going for Mendy on the left back spot and then uh, deploy a very defensive left back than Alaba. But I truly believe that, uh, assuming that everyone's healthy and in good form, I truly believe that Ancelotti is going with Alaba at the left back spot in 80% of the matches Real Madrid are going to play this season. I think that ultimately this is something that will help the team's offense quite a lot. Just think of the Coentrao Marcelo battle for the spot back in 2013, 2014, and even 2015, I think. Coentrao was a defensive specialist. He started against Bayern Munich in the Champions League semi-finals the year in La Décima, for example. But Marcelo was used more often in La Liga just because of his offensive abilities and also off the bench. So I think that ultimately this is what's going to happen. Mendy will be used as a defensive specialist when needed, also as obviously a reserve, to give rest and then to rest whoever needs it. But ultimately, more often than not, the Gala 11 will feature Alaba in the left back spot with Militao and Rudiger in the center of the defensive line. This is just my take about it, I think.
So when you say that, like, if you compare it to the Marcelo Coentrao thing, and then what you're essentially saying is that Mendy will start, like, if everyone's available in the Champions League final, then Mendy will start the Champions League final because he's that.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure either. I know that the comparison probably means that, but I think Alaba is more reliable defensively than Marcelo was back in the day. Marcelo, obviously, peak Marcelo after 2015 or so, was very reliable defensively and all that. But when he was battling for the spot with Coentrao, I think that Alaba is a better defender than Marcelo back in the day. So I think Alaba can. It will all depend on how the team's defense perform when Alaba plays as a left back. But just to answer your question, no, that I don't think that's what it means. It will all depend on matchups and also the chemistry shown with Alaba and Rudiger on that left flank of the offensive line. But ultimately, I think that it doesn't necessarily mean that Mendy will get all the big games because he's a very defensive left back than Alaba. I think Alaba is reliable enough for Ancelotti to trust him in big games also.
So what I was going to ask you personally and specifically is because you and I like this, you and I have had this discussion many times. It's I think as recent as last week or 2 weeks ago, where you mentioned this that Mendy would probably be the odd man out and stuff, and I have my own personal tactical belief of like whether that would be a smart thing to do or not. well, after signing Rudiger. But I guess my question to you was, is this also based on some inside info of like, this is what the club is looking to do? Or is it just or is it more of a hunch that you have?
No, no, it's not necessarily inside info. I do know. I mean, the only part of information I can provide or give is that the club didn't sign Rudiger to be a backup. That's the only thing that
100% I agree
doesn't.
with that.
I mean, that's one. I mean, the club are planning and decided to sign Rudiger because Ancelotti told the club that he wanted Rudiger for that spot, and that's
Yeah.
probably because of the defensive struggles Real Madrid have had with Alaba as a center back. I mean, let's not pretend. Obviously, Real Madrid performed great in the Champions League. Ultimately, won the Champions League with a great defensive performance. Well, I wouldn't call it a great defensive performance, more than a Courtois masterclass. But either way, I think that we all saw that Alaba is not a pure center back this season, and at the same time, we all saw how important he is whenever he had the chance to make any kind of contribution offensively, when Mendy would stay back and Alaba would try to help the team's offense a little. So I think it's ultimately, all pointing towards this theory or this solution that I'm talking about. That Alaba will go back to the left back spot, and Mendy, as great as he is defensively, will probably be just a tactical solution, and obviously a player who will provide a lot of depth in terms of rotations and all, and definitely a tactical option for Ancelotti to trust if Real Madrid are facing, I don't know, Salah, for example, or great right wingers that you need to plan for and all that. But ultimately, again, I think that the club planned this to give Rudiger the starting spot, and that means that it's a battle between Alaba and Mendy, and I truly believe 100% that Alaba is winning that battle 80% of the games Real Madrid are going to play.
So it's interesting that, like, I 100% agree that Rudiger is not coming here to start. I mean, sorry, to be on the bench. He is coming here to start. That's 100% guaranteed to me. Actually, quick slight deviation.
I think he should, by the way.
I agree. He's immediately our best central defender. Like, there's no
agree.
question to me. I think he's actually one of the best central defenders in the world, full stop, like, regardless of how you look at it. I mean,
yeah, he's right there with Militao in terms of ceiling, or when they both are 100%. I believe Militao is quite impressive when he's playing at his very best, but consistency is one problem for Militao that Rudiger doesn't have. So he's the best central defender. Yeah.
I know some people will have much higher hopes for Militao, possibly, but I think if Militao turned into Rudiger, I'd be pretty happy with that. Like,
Sure. Yeah.
Rudiger's awesome.
Why not? Yeah.
So we'll get, like, there's going to be all kinds of coverage on why Rudiger is awesome and stuff. There's going to be a lot of written content. Jose and I are going to do a podcast tomorrow. There's not going to be a shortage of that. But as a slight deviation, we say this: Rudiger is coming here to start. Does Tchouaméni fall into that category of coming here to start? Given his
Depends
price
on the
tag?
fee. Yeah, exactly. Depends on. I wouldn't think so. Considering how important Casemiro has been this year, even though he struggled quite a lot for the first 2/3 of the season or so. But I don't see it the same way. In short, no, I don't think it's the same case. I think that Tchouaméni, at least at the beginning of the season, if he signs, we can maybe discuss this later as a side note or whatever, because I'm not as confident as Somar about Real Madrid's chances of signing Tchouaméni. We can talk about this later, but ultimately, no. In short, no, I don't think it's the same case.
All right, that deviation is over now. Just bringing it back to Rudiger. I just wanted to ask you that.
All right.
There's no doubt that Rudiger starts to me, but I think from a tactical level, and I don't want to make it sound black and white. I don't think it's like this or that. I actually think the fact that we're having this conversation, it's a healthy problem to have, because it means that Ancelotti is going to have options.
Hmm.
And that's super important because Rudiger not only comes to start and improve the defense, but also he adds depth because we're going to basically demote, for lack of a better word, one of our starters, which means they're going to strengthen our bench. I'm just not sure that that player should be Mendy, and I think the club should really look at the idea of that maybe it should be Militao. I don't think it should be Alaba. I think it should be Militao. My only hesitation in saying that is that Rudiger and Alaba both play on the left side.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
In that you may run into problems of fit there, but Rudiger has played on the right center back position before, and I think he's fine there. Um, I think I think because of Mendy's weaknesses offensively, we sometimes underrate him. Because I actually think if even if he just makes some tweaks to his offensive game, he can be really useful. We saw it against. I made this point. Who was that team we beat up on at the end of the season after the league was over and Mendy scored?
Levante.
Levante. It's a poor game to draw upon because obviously it means nothing and Levante were just getting hammered and we were playing without zero pressure. But Mendy made several runs in that game that I was like, man, just make those runs every game. I don't know why you don't. I'm sure some of it is by design. Ancelotti doesn't want him to venture up in big games because he wants him to, for example, lock down Mohamed Salah or whoever. So I think there's that. But if he just makes some of those runs regularly, I think it unlocks a lot for Vinicius to work with. But I just think he's so damn good defensively that it's really hard for me to see him being benched. And I think, there's that side of the coin. There's also another side of the coin to me. While Alaba is an improved weapon offensively if he plays left back over Mendy, I still think his best position is left center back. I think he's a better left center back than he is a left back. I truly do.
That's something we disagree on. Definitely, I think.
Well, we saw so many times this season where how much does it really matter if he plays left back or not? Because he's so good. The understanding with Mendy for him to sometimes just go venture forward and link up with Vinicius, put a great cross in, make some offensive damage with Mendy staying back. That I think if we just incorporate more of that, I think it would make sense. And I also think on the ball, their on-ball ability, Rudiger and Alaba would be our best center back pairing. They're the most comfortable on the ball. They're the best passers out of our center backs. Rudiger, as great as he is defensively, is so good on the ball, and that's huge for us. I'd like to see that. I prefaced it by saying it's not black and white for me. These are all options, but I'm a little bit more. If I had to lean towards one way, I'd lean towards seeing Militao on the bench more than I would Mendy. That's just my personal feeling.
I don't know. I think that's tough. I think it's a close call because of fitness. The fitness point you talked about, not the fitness. Yeah, the fit perspective that brought on when you mentioned that both Alaba and Rudiger play in the same flank of the center back spot. I think that matters. I think that Alaba's main strength as a center back is his ability on the ball to distribute from the back, and that's solved instantly. Like if you move Alaba to the left back spot, you realize, oh, maybe our distribution from the back line will not be as great, but that is instantly solved as soon as you put Rudiger also there. So I think the pros outweigh the cons here when you realize that Alaba and Vinicius on the same flank, on the same wing, can be a pretty damn good partnership there, and also it could actually maximize even more Vinicius' strengths and Vinicius' potential. You know, it could even take his game to another level, and that's probably something that Real Madrid will need in La Liga next season. Let's face it, like Real Madrid have won La Liga by a very solid margin, but they will have to be better than they were this season, probably next season, in order to win. Like they will have to be more better consistently from an offensive standpoint. I think they will have to find ways to be more creative when they have the ball against the smaller teams in order to win the title next season. I think they will not get away with some of the draws or losses they had this season against the smaller opposition. So again, I think that against 80%, 90% of the opposition Real Madrid are facing throughout the course of an entire year, I think that Alaba on the left back spot makes more sense. And also from a defensive standpoint, I think that Alaba, the one point we disagree on most, I think, is when you say that Alaba's best spot is as a center back. I think that you can see that he's not a pure center back. For example, through lateral crosses, I think that's a very big weakness in Alaba's game that would instantly be masked or invisible if you move him to the left back spot, which is, by the way, the position he plays in for the Austrian national team. So ultimately, he's a great crosser. He's a great distributor. He has creativity. He's good from distance, also with his shot. So I think that the pros outweigh the cons of moving Alaba to the left back spot here.
I think either way, you have to pick your poison with Alaba's defense because it's true as a center back, he's not great at tracking runners and defending crosses and stuff. But also watching Austria often, every time he plays left back there, they also get grilled behind the space behind him. So either way, I think it's going to be tough.
Yeah,
but,
they don't have Rudiger there though.
Well,
Rudiger and Casemiro.
Rudiger definitely helps a lot of that. So I guess again, it's just like Mendy probably wouldn't allow that to happen, but Rudiger I think definitely does help mask a lot of that. But I had a couple follow-up questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
How much does Rudiger signing impact a potential Fran Garcia return?
Oh, I think a lot. I don't think Real Madrid are considering that option at the moment anymore. I think that it makes no sense, to be honest. I think if Real Madrid plan to keep Mendy around, which I think they should, in order to avoid being in the same problem they were last season, which is Nacho being forced to play probably more than he should, even though I raise my hand and admit that he did great when called upon in big games. Ultimately, I think that Real Madrid, assuming Marcelo leaves, which is not officially confirmed yet, but we are all expecting that to happen, I think that it makes no sense to bring Fran Garcia to the team, and you will have a bit of an overload in that in the defensive line ultimately, because at the same time you would probably have three right backs if Real Madrid keep Odriozola, which every report indicates that they are considering that option. Then you will have Rudiger, Militao, Nacho, and Alaba for the center back spots, and then Mendy and Fran Garcia for the left back. So I think those are too many, considering that I don't think Alaba is going to be the third option for the center back spot. So I think it makes no sense to bring Fran Garcia back. He's a young player who needs to keep playing and improving. Less Real Madrid are planning to on selling Mendy and then bring back Fran Garcia as the main backup for David Alaba, which I don't know would be an interesting move to make, considering that Mendy's contract expires in 2024, and then that if he's going to be a backup, I don't expect him to extend his deal unless that's the plan. I think that it makes no sense to bring Fran Garcia back.
There have been games this season where Mendy can't play, and obviously there's been plenty of those. I mean, he's had health concerns, and Ancelotti, instead of putting Alaba as the left back, he's put Nacho there. Does that make you think about whether Carlo would do that consistently?
Yeah, Kim, but again, you would be compromising 3 and 4 are 7 and then to 9 roster spots for the defensive line. I think those are too many. I think those are a bit too many, considering that Lucas Vázquez is not a winger and that Alaba will be expected to be in my opinion, a left back more often than not. So I think those are too many for Real Madrid in this case. Although again, I think if you have that problem next season, I would rather probably give the chance to Miguel Gutiérrez if you keep him with Castilla. But again, maybe Real Madrid are also looking at other options for Miguel so that he can get minutes elsewhere in a long deal. It's interesting, obviously. Real Madrid will have to make some decisions for those spots in the roster. But the way it goes right now, I think they're staying put and probably send Fran Garcia. No, sorry, Miguel Gutierrez on loan, and then keep Fran Garcia at Rayo Vallecano, and then maybe take a look at his development from now, when we'll probably be forced to make a decision about Mendy if he doesn't extend his deal. But I think right now, for the spots on defense, I think they're staying put.
So if it were up to me, like Fran Garcia really intrigues me as a really good player. The playing time would concern me a bit with him, but if this is like there's 8 spots, right? 4 starters, 4 backups. This is the way I would do it. I wouldn't bring Odriozola back. I don't see the point.
All right.
I would go
You have to, though.
Why?
Well, his loan deal expires, and you have to bring him back and then try to find a deal, which might not be easy.
I mean, I think Fiorentina would take him if Odriozola would be interested in staying there. That's another matter, because I don't. If I'm Odriozola, I'm looking at Fiorentina. I'm like, this was a perfect fit for me. They basically play the way I want to play.
Yeah.
They put 3 at the back so that I don't have to defend. I'm playing well there.
Yeah.
I also trust Vasquez more as the right back, even though he's not a natural right back over Odriozola. So I'd go Carvajal.
Yeah, but out of all the defenders, I would say, and I would argue, that Carvajal is probably the most injury prone of them all, even more than Mendy. So maybe
but what are you going to do? Like have 8 players just in case? Like
no, but just have 3 options for the right back spot and not for the left back one. I mean, I'm assuming you are letting Odriozola go or stay at Fiorentina, and then you are going to say that, and then bring back Fran Garcia, which would put 3 left backs on the roster and 2 right backs. So
it's partly because I would just want to keep Alaba as center back, because you and I just we just see it a little bit differently there. So I'd go Carvajal, Vasquez, and then Militao, Alaba, Nacho, Rudiger, and then Mendy and Fran Garcia is something I'd be really happy with. But I think also with look, when you look at the Real Madrid roster, and I was looking at it because I was making a huge Twitter thread where I analyzed all 25 members of the squad. And once you get to there are so many, it's okay to have roster spots filled out with good players. But the problem is they don't play. It's not like, here are just a bunch of players that were in our roster this season to remind people. Isco, Bale, Mariano, Jovic, Vallejo.
Yeah.
So if Odriozola occupies one of those 5 spots, I'm actually worried for him, because he's going to destroy his career. And I don't think he should accept that if I were him. I would just stay at Fiorentina. I think Fran Garcia would play quite a bit if Alaba doesn't take the left back spot, because Mendy is just going to have health problems.
Yeah, that's a good point. But apart from the one point we talked about with either Alaba or Rudiger having to adapt to the right side of the center back spots, apart from that issue, my other one is that you actually trusted Militao to perform a year ago, when everyone thought it was a bit premature to give him this kind of role, considering what he had shown in Real Madrid so far. He delivered. Obviously, he still showed some issues. And after that breakout season, you send him to the bench.
Well, someone's got to be sent to the bench.
I think it's tough.
I don't think it's a consistent thing. Again, I don't know if it's that black and white. I think there's going to be a lot of different combinations we'll see. But
yeah.
What I will say about Militao is I think he needs competition. I think he needs to just know that he is not indispensable, because some of those things we saw later in the season were just shocking. The lack of concentration in some of those moments. And I actually believe
I agree. I completely agree.
Yeah, I just want someone to just keep him on his toes. I think that'll be healthy for him.
Yeah, but you already have that without having to send him to the bench, or I mean, as long as Rudiger is here, you already have that, and Militao knows that he cannot how you say, rest on his marbles, or I don't know how the exact translation is, but anyway,
Laurels, I
he
think.
will have yeah,
Marvels is
Lawrence,
the
exactly.
Avengers. Yeah.
Yeah. so he doesn't he will not be allowed to rest and have these mental lapses as often as he was this season, just because Ancelotti will have another option. But at the same time, I think Militao deserves to stay in the starting lineup more often than Mendy next season, just because, again, what's the purpose of, like, Mendy will not be allowed to maximize or show his strengths as a player in 80% of the games Real Madrid are going to play this season. Like, this is my main point here. Like, what's the point of having Mendy in the starting lineup when you have the option of starting Alaba against the Getafes of the world, the Valladolids, the smaller teams in La Liga, the 15, 16 teams in La Liga that Real Madrid will need a constant offensive presence alongside Vinicius on that flank? What's the purpose of starting Mendy in those games
I
when
see
you
your
have the
point.
option of starting Alaba?
I see your point. I'll play devil's advocate. I think in those games you can actually give Mendy a license to roam and hurt teams offensively, like we saw against Levante. You don't have to keep him pinned as much. Whereas in bigger games, maybe you ask him to defend more. And I also, if he's healthy, I think he also could use the momentum and the rhythm of playing the other 80% of the games to be sharp for the 20%.
No, then ultimately for you it's a matter of Militao against versus Mendy for the spot, I guess. I will have to see. You assume Rudiger would be the one moving to the right flank, right?
Probably, yeah.
To the right. We'll see. We'll see. I'm not as confident with Alaba staying for another season in that position as you are. It all comes down to that, really. It all comes down to how comfortable you are with Alaba still starting as a center back for another season. And I'm not as optimistic as some others, including you. But we'll get the chance. We will all get the chance to see what Ancelotti decides to do starting next season for sure.
Well, it's also interesting. I mean, I also just want to see what Rudiger looks like on the right center back position also. I would like to see that quite a bit. I mean, Militao wasn't always a right center back either when he was at Porto, and he adapted. But I think I'm fast forwarding to a lot of these games in big Champions League games where we get pressed, and I know Rudiger and Alaba, those two together, would be better for us than having Militao. But again, I'm this is a lot of just hypotheticals,
Yes,
though. I don't know.
yes, but at the same time, just to wrap this up, at the same time, Rudiger, well, but Rudiger is so great with the ball.
Yeah,
Like, he's great with the ball, and he's great distributing from the back. Usually, you want to have those players on the left spot, on the center back spot, like Ramos, Piqué for most of his career, Hummels for most of his career. Like, the one distributor is usually on the left spot in order to distribute to the center more comfortably than they would do from the right spot. That's usually the direction teams take with their distributor from the back. So if he's right-footed, for sure, that's the key point.
yeah. I mean, it's interesting when you put it that way because I mean, there's so few left-footed center backs. Like obviously it's much easier to find someone who's playing as a left center back. But you'd think theoretically, because Alaba's left-footed, he'd probably be more comfortable at the right center back position, wouldn't he?
Yes, yes, yes,
But
yes.
we've never
But you
seen
would
it.
take
But
it's interesting. We'll just have to wait and see. It's an endless discussion probably before the season
oh yeah,
begins.
it'll
We'll see
be
how
yeah. We'll
how
have plenty of
everyone
time.
performs, and then we'll definitely have time to react to the players' performances and all that. Right now, it's all obviously on paper, and we don't even know Ancelotti's plans for that particular debate, other than Rudiger is here to start. And I don't think Alaba is going to the bench. So
I
it's down to Militao and Mendy probably.
I look forward to somebody asking us this exact question every Thursday
A week from now.
for the next 2 years.
Yeah, it will be interesting.
Patrick Odaya says, "Hi, Keon and Lucas. I hope you're both doing well. Can you talk about the way the older players